Okay, I am back once again, and I'm wearing the same thing I was wearing in my last video because I'm actually recording this video right after finishing that one. Something I haven't done in a very long time, so this feels weird. I'm getting back into it. I'm readjusting. The rust is shaking off. God, I hope so. Anyway, as you saw from the title of this video, I am here to finish talking today about Gun Honey, Blood for Blood. Alright, so if you saw the last video or read the last issue, whichever or both, you would know that what we have here is essentially a little bit of a same situation that we had in the setup for the last issue, which is that Joanna and Philippa are both in the same location. Philippa is here to kill someone, Joanna is here to try and stop her from doing that. So we're going to see how it actually works out this time, because we saw how it worked out for them last time, and we're going to see what the shakeout is. What was the result of Brooke being caught for everything that he was doing with Joanna on the side, and then, seemingly, from the looks of it, killing Ernie with, some sort of drug overdose, which is not a good look when you work for the government. Well, unless it's for the right reasons. Right reasons. Anyway, let's get back into the book. So we have here, yes, where Bert was ready to watch this performance. He's here in this very nice, theater house or whatever, and he has obviously, his armed guards, and they're standing outside while one is, looking at his watch saying, "I don't like it. This is too public." The other one says, "I didn't hear the boss ask if you liked it. All he asked was make sure no one gets in there." So, that's what they're going to try to do. Anyway, we go over to the stage and we can see where they are, performing their routine, whatever it is. And so this particular show also happens to include a pool feature. So we have, the pool performers coming out, and we can see where one of them is holding a gun, because that's Philippa ready to try and take Bert out. So we can see here where Bert is sitting with the prince that he was coming to meet, and the prince is trying to tell him, "You'll love this, the pool number. They're famous for it." The stage is beginning to open up, and all of a sudden, the pool comes up and everybody starts clapping. So we have here the singer, I guess. He's singing, "Dive into my arms with all thy charms, embrace me." And then, they're doing the whole performance as the song continues. And then as Philippa comes up, she's just almost about level with him, so she decides to go and take her shot. He notices that she has the gun, but before she can actually take the shot, she's shot at from behind by another one of the performers, which is, of course, Joanna. She leaps at her to go ahead and, take her out before she can try and take another shot at him. And then, of course, she knocks her off. They both fall off of, I guess it's a diving board, right? And then they both fall into the water and begin fighting, as we see the gun is kind of knocked away from where they are. So Joanna again is trying to fight with her. Didn't really go that well for her the last time she was fighting with her, and it's kind of going about the same here, where she's kind of blocking every one of Joanna's, moves and everything. But as she goes to try and get away, because, she is starting to run out of breath, she makes her way through this little hole, this little opening, and Joanna follows right behind her, only to come out and see her, making for this exit. So she continues running, but Joanna is able to catch up to her. But instead of taking her down, she actually uses the forward momentum, I guess, to kind of like drop her body weight and then fling Joanna over herself onto the floor in a very harsh way. And then she, takes her by the neck, saying, "Bert wants you dead. The man you just saved. He'll pay me to do it." So she's looking at her. She says, "That tattoo, yours. Didn't think it meant him." So she's saying, "You can read it, huh?" And we can see where, yeah, she has this tattoo around her neck. So we can see here where, yes, she does have this tattoo here in Morse code that she's able to read that says yours. She says, "And you were Lydia Morse's little bitch." She says, "You don't get to say her name. You don't get to say anything ever again," as she goes to, basically just choke her out. But as she's in the middle of that, Joanna manages to take this syringe and, poke her in the neck, and we can see where she is, caught off guard by that. And then she does push down all the way on the plunger, and the guards run in, saying, what the hell, because they just see these two basically almost naked chicks just in this physical confrontation, and then one stabbing the other one in the neck with a syringe. So it's a hell of a sight to walk up on. So he says, which one are we supposed to? He says, take them both. Let the boss sort it out. Now we go back over to Brooke to see what's going on with him. And he's being interrogated as the interrogator is saying, do you have any idea how many violations we have you on? He says, it was a sanctioned internal affairs investigation. He says, you killed the subject of a federal manhunt by injecting him with an illegal drug. He says, Philippa Sterling killed him, shot him in front of me. The drug was palliative. He begged for it. He says, so you say, but strangely, the video we received doesn't show either of those things. He says, it wouldn't, would it, if Philippa's the one that sent it to you? He says, and this woman, this known criminal that you turned over stolen evidence to, he tells them that, she was the victim of a frame-up but before he can tell him, he says, Philippa Sterling, yes, you've said it 50 times. What is it with you and her? Did she refuse to sleep with you or something? He just tells him, no, she didn't refuse to sleep with me. He says, so she did sleep with you. He says, what the hell kind of questioning is this? And starts to get up, but then he tells him, sit down, agent. He just tells him, I want to talk to a lawyer. He's like, well, I am a lawyer. He says, I want one representing me. He says, well, that might be an option, agent, if you hadn't signed away your right to counsel when you joined this department. Gotta love it, right? I mean, government jobs, aren't they just the best? He says no one can sign away their constitutional rights. He's like, I'm sure the ACLU would agree with you. Shame they aren't here. Like I said. Listen to me, Officer Gorman, he says. Philippa Sterling is on the loose somewhere, carrying out a vendetta against anyone she blames for Lydia Morse's murder, which apparently includes me. This known criminal you're asking about is the only one with any chance of stopping her before more people die. I'd think you want to know about that. He says, oh, I would, very much. Starting with where we might find her. And this brings us back over to Philippa and Joanna, who are both actually captive, as you can see. Philippa's still out of it, and they're asking Joanna, what was that you injected her with? She tells him, your partner called it MC cubed. Said he was going to tell you he'd fixed it. He's like, really? Huh. He worked on it for so long. His life's work, really. He says, she tells him he's dead. She killed him. He's like, yeah, I know. And then she tells him, she tried to kill you too. He says, she said that was you. And that you killed my Ella. So we can see where she's kind of out of it. She's kind of mumbling a little bit. And then Joanna's saying she blames you and Ernie for her parents' death and me for her mentors. And then we can see where she's basically fully awake now. And he says, that may be, but it doesn't mean you didn't kill my daughter. One of you did. You were both there, both in the gym. My security team found footage of both of you. So that's when Philippa finally wakes up enough to say, she did it. I told you. He says, maybe. Maybe it doesn't matter. Neither of you will be a big loss to the world. So he's ready to just shoot both of them in the head and be done with it. And she says, you think you have us at your mercy, don't you? He's saying, well, don't I? Because, they are both tied up and he has a gun on both of them. So, yeah, the odds are pretty stacked in his favor for most people. But she says, you'd be a terrible chess player. And then we can see where Joanna looks over a little bit concerned because if Philippa's talking to him with this kind of confidence, that cannot bode well. She says, you put me in a room with two of the three people I hate most in the world. You make it clear you're going to kill me. You tell me what's my move, and then we get this kind of close-up on a bag that's near him. As we can see, Joanna all of a sudden has this real sense of urgency to her, so she starts picking at her handcuffs. Philippa says, Alexa, and then she summons, Alexa that is in the bag. He turns and starts looking because he's confused, and then she says, checkmate, which sets off whatever the command was, which basically was to detonate this bomb. As we can see, Joanna undoes the cuffs and then manages to kind of use the chair to shield her body as the other two just go flying from this giant explosion. Now we see the wreckage and debris of said explosion as the guards start just banging on the door saying, "Mr. John Caruso, sir." Felipa's just there as she's kind of like dying. She looks at Joanna. She's like, "You." And then she does one of those things that like characters in movies do where they spit at the person they hate the most as they're dying because that's the last thing they have. They can't do anything else to possibly try and hurt them. So they go for an insult instead. So she says, "Okay, Kasparov, what's your move now?" She says, "Already made it. Ask your boyfriend." So that's when she realizes, oh shit, she already did something to him. What the hell is it? And then, yeah, she dies. So the guards do manage to get in and see that, he's also dead. Somebody comes up behind him and says, "Get on your knees or I'll pull this trigger." So, of course, he falls on his knees and is crying, saying, "Why'd you have to kill him?" So she's saying, "You aren't going to believe this, but I didn't kill him. The woman who did is right there. I didn't kill her either. But if you try to follow me, I'm going to kill you." So she takes off running away just as far as and fast as she possibly can. She manages to secure a vehicle and, takes off. So we can see where the director is now on the phone with the officer who was trying to interrogate Brooke earlier. And he's giving him the rundown, basically saying he's not talking. Either he doesn't know or he's just too loyal to her. So he's asking him, "Have you got what you need to close out the file?" And he's like, "Well, I've got enough." He says, "Good. You're transferring him today?" He says, "This morning." So he says, "Fine, fine. I'll be very sorry to hear about his unfortunate suicide. Careless of your guard to permit it." He says, "Well, he'll be reprimanded." And then we kind of get this look at the officer, and we see he also has one of these Morse code tattoos. So we can assume that the director is also part of this secret cabal. Anyway, they're transporting Brooke away, into custody. And he's telling him, "Sit down, fasten the leg shackles." And then he's asking him, "Where are you taking me?" He's like, "Well, what difference does it make?" He says, "Just sit back and enjoy the ride." And then he looks down and he sees that there's something carved right in between the guard's legs. And it says, "Fly in lower." So seeing that, he's like, "Oh shit, that's a message." So he says, "Remember, when we get there, I'm owed a phone call and I'm owed a lawyer." And he starts reaching underneath because Joanna has provided him with the gun. So the guard is telling him, "I were you, I'd be thinking more in terms of a priest." And then all of a sudden, blam! He shot him. So he tells him, "Forgive me, Father." And then he makes his escape from the back of it. And he's wondering, how did Joanna plant that gun there for you? You'll have to ask her sometime, if you live long enough. So he reaches down and just points the gun inside and says, "Pull over, driver. I don't want to have to shoot you." She says, "Well, good. I only gave you the one bullet anyway." So when he sees that it's her, he's like, "Oh shit." So he just gets in and he says, "How?" She says, "Felipa's dead. Blew herself up. Unfortunately, there's more where she came from. Your operation's crawling with Lydia's little soldiers." He says, "Apparently, and they're going to come after us both." She says, "I know places they won't find." He says, "Like I didn't find you in Longkowie? Ha! I learned how to say it since the first video." She says, "Better places," and then she asks him if he's coming. He says, "What, on the run? Live as a fugitive?" She's telling, "Well, it's not a bad life." He says, "Joanna, I'm a federal agent, a cop." She says, "Not anymore," and then she throws a grenade into the police convoy or whatever, which blows the whole thing to hell. And she says, "You don't win by playing their game, Brooke. You win by making them play yours." He's kind of considering that for a minute, and then we see where they basically take off, and he's asking her, "And what exactly are the rules of this game of yours?" She says, "No rules, babe. Just hang on tight." And then they get on the bike and ride off. And that is the end of this chapter of Gun Honey. And I gotta tell you what, another solid story. I enjoyed this one a lot, just like I did the first one. Both of them were really good. I really don't have much to critique on it. Honestly, yeah, I can't really think of anything. It's a solid story, engaging from beginning to end, has the right amount of sex appeal that you would expect from your average, James Bond. Well, actually, even better than James Bond, I would argue. But that's just me. I'm a biased opinion because I actually really enjoy this story. So, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I thoroughly enjoyed making these videos talking about it. It's always so easy just talking about a story like this, that's engaging, interesting, and just fun. Something that I enjoy. So it was a lot of fun that goes into just talking about or really just recapping the events of the story for y'all, because like I said, I don't have anything really to say about it. I love this character of Joanna, and I cannot wait to see more for her, which obviously there's a setup for more to be, to be had with this whole Morse code thing. I can't wait to see what that's about. It's going to be interesting to see them develop this world even more, especially now that Brooke is no longer with the government. It's going to make it more interesting to see how they're going to be doing things moving forward, as far as like getting intel, securing, transportation, stuff like that. Like, they're not going to be able to get helicopter. Well, maybe they'll be able to get helicopters. Maybe they'll find a different way. Maybe Joanna has some sort of connection, but we'll find out. We'll see what happens moving forward. I just know I can't wait to see more of this character, of this series. So I'm ready for it. Whenever y'all want to put it out, I will be here to read it and possibly to do videos and talk about it. So thank you for another exciting and entertaining chapter in the Gun Honey series. And I would love to get y'all's thoughts. I want to know what you think of the story. Did you happen to pick this up? Are you going to go and pick it up now that you've seen me talk about the whole thing? Feel free to let me know whatever you may possibly think about this down below. And if you are done here, then do go and read a book. But if not, then I will see you on my next video.